Alright guys, I'm finally back. Today I've got another Pathfinder 2e teamwork build for you. So today is all about the Alchemical Crossbow. Let's get started. But before we get into the build itself, let's look at what we're building around the Alchemical Crossbow. This uncommon crossbow works identically to a regular crossbow with a couple of exceptions. This crossbow is equipped with a metal bracket. For one action, you may place a lesser alchemical bomb in that bracket. This bomb must be one that deals energy damage, so borrowed lightning or something like that. Once the bomb is in place, the crossbow deals 1d6 extra damage of that energy type for your next 3 attacks with it. This is in addition to the normal damage of the crossbow. If you do not make the second and third attacks within 1 minute after this crossbow is equipped with a bomb, then the energy damage is wasted. You do not gain the splash damage from the bomb or any other effects that would normally apply to the bomb. The second difference between this and a regular crossbow is that you can't shoot it as far. The addition of the bracket makes it unsteady, reducing its range increment to 30 feet. This crossbow otherwise functions as a regular crossbow. But even if you don't have free archetype, like we're going to have in this video, if you've got an alchemist in the party, you can get your bombs from them. This is especially helpful for teamwork when your alchemist is not a bomber alchemist. You can get more damage out of their lesser bombs and take advantage of their mutagens, particularly the cognitive mutagen. But more importantly, with this crossbow, you don't have to worry about splash damage hitting your allies. This means you can do energy damage without having to worry about hurting your allies. The same cannot be said for a non-bomber alchemist. Alright, today's ancestry is going to be a human Aphorite. However, this time we're actually going to be taking human feats instead of only taking human so we don't take a minus to wisdom. Today's class is going to be a ranger, and we're going to be picking up the Precision Hunter's Edge. The background for this build is going to be the Hermit background. I know, still pretty old school, but we're going to be focusing on 2 different things in this build. One is damage, the other is knowledge. The Hermit background will give us the Dubious Knowledge skill feat. This will allow us to get some information on our enemies even if we fail on recall knowledge. And then, this build is pretty mad, so for our starting ability scores, we will need a strength of 10, a dexterity of 16, a constitution of 12, an intelligence of 14, a wisdom of 16, and a charisma of 12. Our first class feat for this build is going to be Crossbow Ace. When we're using a crossbow, every time we hunt prey or interact to reload, we get a +2 to our damage roll. Also, since we're going to be using a simple, albeit uncommon, crossbow, the damage dice of our crossbow will increase to 1d10. But we have to shoot before the end of our turn, or these benefits are lost. Again, one of the things we're focusing on here is damage, and this will give us a little bit more. Next, we're going to want to pick up an animal companion. And we want to pick up one that'll give us either the flat-footed condition or the frightened condition. Because we're using an alchemical crossbow, we are going to be able to do energy damage, but at the cost of our range. Sometimes we are going to need to be further away to keep out of melee of enemies. That means we're going to be taking minuses to hit. However, pick the right animal companion, and we can offset that. Some good options include the wolf and the hyena. And remember, because we're our ranger, our animal companion gains our hunter's edge benefit as well. That means our animal companion does extra damage on its first strike of a round as well. Next up is Monster Warden. However, this feat requires the Monster Hunter class feat. Therefore, if you're not playing a human, then you'll want to pick up Monster Hunter here. But we're going to be picking up that feat as an ancestry feat instead of a class feat. So whenever we grant bonuses from Monster Hunter, we also allow us and our allies to gain a +1 circumstance bonus to the next saving throw against that particular creature and to AC against that creature's next attack. This will simply allow us to give our allies and ourselves a little bit of defense whenever we critically succeed on our recall knowledge checks. Don't worry, I'll talk about Monster Hunter later in this video. And then now that we're level 6, we can take Mature Animal Companion. This is just a way to make our animal companion stronger. Also, whenever we have a foe targeted by hunt prey, our animal companion gets one action to stride towards or strike our prey, even if we don't command it. This feat will really help us with our action economy, because we'll have to shoot, reload, and then every 3 rounds we'll have to load a bomb into that bracket. So on the rounds we have to do that, our animal companion still gets one action. Next up is Gravity Weapon. This will give us the Gravity Weapon Warden spell, and a focus pool of 1 point. This will take 1 action to cast. But once we do, for the next minute, our first crossbow strike of each round will deal extra damage equal to twice the number of weapon damage dice of our crossbow. Most rounds we're only going to get 1 crossbow strike anyway. So we want that 1 crossbow strike to do as much damage as possible. Then comes the feat that we really want for our knowledge checks. Master Monster Hunter. Now we can use nature to recall knowledge on any creature. In addition, we gain the benefits of Monster Hunter and Monster Warden whenever we succeed as well as critically succeed. But we still want our intelligence to be high so that we can recall knowledge on things other than creatures. But this will really help us out when the party really needs to exploit weaknesses. Then we want to take Incredible Companion. This will make our animal companion a nimble or savage animal companion. Which one you pick is going to ultimately depend on the companion. But generally speaking, if your animal companion is using athletics to make foes flat-footed, then you're going to want to go with savage. Otherwise, you probably want to go with nimble so it's harder to hit. Distracting shot is another way we can make our hunted prey flat-footed. When we critically hit our hunted prey with a ranged weapon, then that foe is flat-footed until the start of our next turn. Keep in mind, that's flat-footed to everyone, including your allies and your animal companion. In case you don't know, flat-footed is a -2 to AC, so that makes it easier for everyone to hit them. Granted, we gotta critically hit in order to get this, but we don't have to spend an action on it. Legendary Monster Hunter is just a direct upgrade to Monster Hunter and Monster Warden. The bonuses from Monster Hunter and Monster Warden increase to +2 for you and any allies that benefit. So even more bonuses for our allies than previously. We come to Greater Distracting Shots. Now every time we hit our hunted prey with our crossbow, they're flat-footed until the start of our next turn. And if we critically hit, then they're flat-footed until the end of our next turn instead. This is just a direct upgrade to Distracting Shots. Being able to make a foe flat-footed to all of our allies every round is huge. Especially for builds that want to use weapons but don't really have much proficiency in them. And the last feat on this side of the free archetype is going to be Perfect Shot. In order to use this feat, we must be wielding our crossbow, and we have to have not reloaded since our last turn. For 3 actions, we can make a ranged strike against our hunted prey with our crossbow. If we hit, we deal maximum damage. After this strike, our turn automatically ends. We're only going to get 1 strike with our crossbow anyway, so we might as well do maximum damage, right? This feat is going to be extremely helpful against bosses, as long as we can hit them. Especially if that boss has a weakness we can exploit. And now it's time for the free archetype. Our first dedication is going to be the Alchemist dedication. This will give us access to the bombs we need in order to max out our damage. We'll also gain access to mutagens. Specifically, the Cognitive Mutagen and the Quicksilver Mutagen are really going to help us out. And then if we really need to heal someone, we also have access to Elixirs of Life. Plus, if we don't have an Alchemist in the party, then we can give these items to our party members as well. Then we're going to need the Alchemical Familiar Alchemist feat. This is mainly for the Independent and Valet familiar abilities. These two will help our action economy. This will give our familiar 1 action even if we don't command it, as well as the ability to spend up to 2 actions handing us items. This means we can just use our alchemical items instead of having to pull them out and then use them. We have a lot of options we can do during our turn, so this will allow us to use more of them. Next we're going to be picking up Expert Alchemy. We don't really need anything higher than lesser bombs for our crossbow, but this will allow us to make moderate and higher bombs for our allies, as well as have better mutagens and elixirs of life. This will give us an advanced alchemy level of 3, and then at 10 it goes to 5. Then we'll take our second dedication, the Poisoner dedication. This will give us even more alchemical reagents, but we can only use our Poisoner abilities for poisons. This will allow us to do even more damage with our crossbow, and if we pick the right poisons, even debuff our foes. Alright, then we have Poison Weapon. We are still going to need our familiar for our other alchemical items, but for poisons, this feat allows us to draw and use our poisons as one action. If our next attack after this hits, then we can apply the effects of the poisons, provided it can be delivered by injury or contact. But if we critically fail the attack roll, then we lose the poison. Again, this is just for our action economy, because normally applying a poison requires 2 actions since you have to be careful about it. Next up is Master Alchemy. This increases our advanced alchemy level to 7, and for every level beyond 12, it increases by 1. Again, this is just so we have access to better bombs for our allies and better mutagens and elixirs of life. With improved Poison Weapon, we no longer waste our poisons if we critically fail an attack roll. This will help us with our action economy even more, because now we keep our poison until we hit. This of course will allow us to get more use out of our poisons as well, since we're not going to have as many as a full alchemist. Expert Poisoner will increase our advanced alchemy level for poisons to our level -3. That means our advanced alchemy level for poison is always going to be higher than for everything else. We can go all the way up to level 17 with this. And honestly, as you get higher level in the poisons, it really focuses more on damage instead of debuffing the foes. And we want to do damage and debuff our foes. So for this build, an advanced alchemy level of 17 at max is fine. Alright, next up is Chemical Contagion. If a foe critically fails on their saving throw against one of our poisons, then a foe adjacent to them is also exposed. This is just so we can spread our poisons around to other enemies. And our final class feat for this build is going to be Pinpoint Poisoner. With this feat, when we hit a flat-footed foe with our crossbow that has been poisoned, that foe takes a -2 penalty on their saving throw. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have low-level poisons go off our class DC. That means the higher level we get, the less effective our lower-level poisons are going to be. This feat will allow us to use our lower-level poisons a little bit longer, as long as the foe is flat-footed. In fact, you may even want to take this feat earlier than this. Anyway, let's move on to Ancestry feats. First up, we have Natural Ambition. This will give us a first level class feat. This is where we'll pick up our Monster Hunter feat. When we hunt prey, we can recall knowledge as part of that action. Plus, whenever we critically succeed on a recall knowledge check against our hunted prey, we give ourselves and our allies a +1 on their next attack roll against that creature. But we can only give these bonuses once per day against a particular creature. If we use this and then make our foe flat-footed, we are essentially giving our allies a +3 to hits against that creature. Then we'll want to pick up Clever Improviser. This will give us the Untrained Improvisation general feat. We'll gain half our level as a proficiency bonus to our untrained skills. And 2 levels after this, we'll get our full level. But the most important part of this feat is that we can use trained skill actions even if we're untrained in the skill. Especially in the beginning, this build is going to require a lot of skills. And we are most certainly not a rogue, so we're not going to be able to be trained in everything we need. So with this feat, we can do things like decipher writing even if we're untrained in Arcana, or whatever skill we're trying to use. Alright, and 9th we'll pick up Heir of the Salk. We're going to be picking up Salk Astrology in our general feats. So when we use that feat, we roll a d4. On a 1, we take a -1 penalty to the check. On any other result, we get a circumstance bonus equal to the number we rolled. So if we roll a 4, we get a +4. If we roll a 2, we get a +2, and so on. This is just a direct upgrade to Salk Astrology, which I'll get to when I get to general feats. Next, from our Aphorite heritage, we'll want to pick up Impose Order. This gives us a reaction that is triggered when we critically fail a skill check or we suffer from a misfortune effect. The one we care about here is critically failing a skill check. Don't get me wrong, the misfortune thing is nice, but anyway, if the triggering check was a skill check, then we gain the effects of the assurance feat instead of what we rolled. If the trigger was a misfortune effect, we cancel it out. This combined with Heir to the Salk is really going to help us get those effects from Monster Hunter and Monster Warden, which we definitely want. And our final ancestry feat for this build is going to be Channel the God Mind. In order to know about creatures, we have to be able to see them. With this feat, once per day, for 1 minute, we can gain the effects of a 9th level True Seeing, the ability to see invisible creatures and objects, and precise motion sense out to a range of 60 feet. This will also really help us against enemies that want to sneak up on us. Further, once we hit invisible creatures with our bolts, we may be able to point them out to our allies. Alright, for general feats, we're going to start with Ancestral Paragon. This will give us a first level ancestry feat. And of course, the feat we want to pick up is Salk Astrology. We can use this feat 3 times per day as long as we spend 10 minutes after our daily preparations examining the sky or consulting a star chart. If our next action requires us to make 1 or more skill checks, then we can roll a d8. On a 6, 7, or 8, we gain a +2 bonus on the first skill check we have to make. On a 3, 4, or 5, we gain a +1 bonus. If we roll a 2, nothing happens. And finally, if we roll a 1, we take a -1 penalty to that skill check. We need this for our Heir of the Salk feat later. And until we get that feat, the chances of getting a bonus on this feat are pretty high. And the chance of getting a penalty is pretty low. This can really help with our skills that aren't as high, especially when combined with Clever Improviser. Then we'll want to take the standard feats that I always take for all these builds, which are of course Die Hard and Toughness so we don't die, and Canny Acumen for our lowest save, which for this build is going to be our will save. And of course, since we're going to be legendary in Perception, we might as well pick up Incredible Scout. So when we use the Scout Exploration activity, then we can give our allies a +2 on their initiative instead of a +1. Our dex is going to be high, so we might as well be good at stealth too, because that'll help us scout as well. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 1 and 2e teamwork content. If you want to see more teamwork builds like this, you can check out these videos here. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page for exclusive perks. Link is in the description. And remember, teamwork is vital, and I'll see you guys next time.